Today, we're going deep on a massive undertaking, North Carolina's really ambitious blueprint to completely overhaul its child welfare system. And we're not just talking about a few small tweaks here and there. This is a fundamental rethinking of how the state protects its most vulnerable kids. It all kicks off with a single number that is, well, it's pretty staggering.
11,000. Get this. That's the average number of child abuse and neglect reports North Carolina's social services get. Not in a year, every single month. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the sheer scale of the challenge we are talking about.
And that really brings us to the core question, right? When you're faced with that volume of need, that level of crisis, day after day, how on earth do you even begin to build a system that can respond effectively, consistently, and, with compassion?
To find the answer, first we have to really wrap our heads around the immense pressure the system is already under. I mean, you can't design a solution until you diagnose the problem, right? And the data, it paints a very, very clear picture of the strain. So let's just break down these numbers, because they really show you what's happening. Think of it like a giant funnel. At the top, you've got over 133,000 reports coming in every year, a huge number. From there, just over 87,000 are accepted for a closer look. But here's the part that's really alarming. A 9% increase in children entering foster care in just 3 years. That tells you the system isn't just strained, the pressure is actively growing. Okay, so the state knew it had a problem. They brought in the experts, the Center for Support of Families, or CSF, to do a really deep systemic analysis. And they didn't just look at the numbers on the surface. They went looking for the root causes behind those numbers. And what they found were some really deep-seated structural challenges. Their analysis really boiled it down to 4 core issues. First, you've got dedicated staff who are just burning out from these crushing, unmanageable workloads. Second, the funding is, well, it's a fragmented patchwork. It's not unified at all. Third, without good data, you can't fix what you can't measure. And finally, and this one is huge, with 100 different counties, you basically get 100 different systems. A child's fate can literally depend on their zip code. So, what does that fragmented patchwork of funding actually look like? Well, this. The state itself only provides about 18% of the money. The rest is split between federal funds and the counties themselves. And here's the crucial point. This forces each of those 100 counties to cover a huge and vastly different portion of the costs. And that creates these deep inequalities in care all across the state. But here's what's so important. The report found that the problem wasn't the people, it was the system. This quote really highlights that the desire for change, the passion for the work, it was already there. The people on the front lines were ready and willing. They just needed a better blueprint to work with. And that's exactly what this reform plan aims to be. A blueprint to rebuild the system from the ground up. It's designed specifically to address those root causes we just talked about and create a structure that actually supports its passionate workforce and the families they serve. The entire plan is built on 4 foundational pillars. You can think of them as the core of the whole thing. First, support the workforce to stop the burnout. Second, engage families with a real focus on keeping them safely together. Third, modernize the systems by unifying that patchwork of funding and data. And finally, strengthen oversight to make sure it all works the way it's supposed to. It's a really clear framework for a revolutionary change. So that's the big picture strategy. Now let's look at how this blueprint actually translates into concrete, practical changes on the ground. This is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, one of the biggest changes is this shift to regional supervision. The state central office will still set the statewide plan, the main policies. But, and this is key, new regional offices will provide direct, hands-on support. They'll monitor compliance, help counties with corrective action, and share what's working and what's not. The goal is to finally end that 100 counties, 100 systems problem and bring in some real consistency. And here is a perfect example of that push for consistency. The plan calls for one statewide, centralized hotline for all reports. This is critical. It ensures that the decision to screen a report in or out is based on the same standard criteria, whether the call comes from a big city or a small rural county. Every child gets the same starting line. So, the blueprint is drawn and the big changes are defined. But how does a plan of this magnitude actually become a reality? Well, the path forward is designed to be really deliberate and methodical.
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint. The plan lays out 5 distinct phases. You start with development and planning, then you move to readiness and building capacity. After that, you get to initial implementation, where they pilot the new models, and then, finally, a full statewide rollout. This is a multi-year effort to get it right, making sure the foundation is solid before you build the rest of the house on top of it.
Which brings us right back to the ultimate question, doesn't it? This is more than just a government report. It's a blueprint for hope. It acknowledges these profound systemic challenges while also championing the people who are so ready for change. The real test, of course, is turning these words and charts into a new reality for thousands of children and families all across North Carolina.